Well, good evening, laddies, lasses, and my little lab rats, and welcome to the Click. You smell absolutely astounding today, and don't let anyone else lie to you and tell you otherwise. Knowledge is the sexiest thing of all, and that is why today we are looking at r/NoStupidQuestions. Enjoy. Mwah. r/NoStupidQuestions. How is my sister 4 months older than me? Okay, so both my sister and I are 16 years old and she is 4 months older than me. And only today did I realize that you can't get pregnant while you're already pregnant. Only in rare cases. Our mother must have been 5 months into her pregnancy when I was conceived. Is this a case of superfetation? Is that actually a thing? Superfetation. Why did I get my overview in Swedish? Extremt sällsynt fenomen. A very rare phenomenon where a new... I was gonna translate it to gravity, because pregnancy in Swedish is graviditet, but no. When the mother has a new gravity, and the two different stages of... Okay, no, I'm gonna say that one of you is adopted. Okay, that's more likely. Is this a case of superfetation? Not trying to debate anyone, just want to understand. Edit, turns out my dad had an affair with his cousin. What the fuck? That is the... Oh my fucking god. Can you imagine going to Reddit for like little wholesome answers about like, oh my god, could there be 2 babies with different like stages of gestation or whatever? Like, no. Congratulations, incest baby, hell yeah.
Yeehaw, you know what they say, keep the best genes in the family, woohoo!
r/NoStupidQuestions. Do Americans actually avoid calling an ambulance due to financial concern? I see memes about Americans choosing to suck up their health problems instead of calling an ambulance. I mean, this is just average male vibes. Could that lump be cancer? Nah, I'ma man it out and die in 2 years. The average peak male performance. But isn't that what health insurance is for? Yes, I am a firefighter and EMT. We have a stretch of interstate and a 4-lane expressway to our response area. This past Sunday, we had multiple crashes when weather turned to poo. One crash, a head-on, had 4 victims. One was a young kid with a head wound, not in a car seat, and another was his mother with a broken leg. The father asked if the kid was well enough to just go home with him, and he would take him to urgent care. The kid was bleeding from his head, and the father still wanted to refuse treatment. The cops on the scene had to threaten to charge him with child endangerment if he didn't let the kid get transported. The father then tried to refuse medical treatment for his wife, but she was unconscious, so was unable to refuse. He cannot refuse for her. She had a broken femur and head injuries, so it would have been really bad if she had been able to refuse treatment. They lost her health insurance last month when he was laid off in October. Luckily, I guess, the crash was not their fault and the other driver is insured. I see a lot of incidents where people refuse medical care because of costs. Man, that is so incredibly dark. I was gonna say this sounds like a dystopian movie, but we live in it currently. Yay! Sparkle emojis. But we can't have public health care, because that's dirty socialism. This is better. How are women going commando? Finally, we're getting to the real intellectual questions of the day. A genuine question from a 19-year-old girl. How are women leaving their homes without underwear on? I mean, I wouldn't consider myself a woman, but when I go commando, it's usually with a very soft piece of clothing, like sweatpants or pajama pants or whatever. I would never, in my wildest dreams, go commando in like a pair of jeans or something. That sounds awful. My main concern is like discharge. I don't know others, but I would say I wouldn't want that all over my leggings. Or like if I'm in a dress with my legs, sad emoji. Is this just something you ignore? I'm not trying to be funny. I have always wondered this. No shade though. Let her breathe, girl. I don't go commando in hard pants or dresses. Only sweatpants or other flowier pants or shorts. That's what I'm saying. That's what you see. Yes, this is a gender-neutral issue. And I second what everyone else is saying. It dries out down there naturally with a lack of restriction. However, TMI warning, it does mean if you're sweating a lot in the day, the crotch of the pants will smell like pee by the end of the day. I mean, yeah. That does make sense. You have one less layer of, like, margin in your undies. But to be honest, I very rarely go commando, like, outside of the house. This is something I do when I'm, like, strolling around my home or cleaning or something like that in a pair of sweatpants. Then I can go commando. I don't think I ever leave the house commando. That does sound uncomfortable and risky. Alright, heads up, this one is a little bit on the darker side, so if you want to skip this, if you're having a bad day yourself, there is a timestamp here if you want to skip past it. Let's get into it, shall we? I am a 29M in hospice for lung cancer. They told me I have approximately 1 to 4 months to live back in May. Trying to make the most of my time here, so I'm not doing chemo or any of that shit. The cancer is too widespread, and all chemo would do is maybe buy me a year or two. Ask me anything. What would you do if you only had a few months to live? I am very practical, so I would write down the passwords to anything my family would need to deal with after I'm gone. Bank accounts, social media, etc. Then I would think about what I'd like to do with my funeral and try to set aside money for that, and write instructions to help whoever has to sort it out, including names and contact details of people I would like to have informed. Then I would think about a will and make a death plan. I am opting for a DNR. When I'm on my deathbed, I do want any particular people around or music playing. Do I want to die at home or in the hospice or somewhere else? That sort of thing. Then once I've got the admin out of the way, I'd probably try all the drugs. Wish you as little pain as possible. OP. Have yourself a funeral while you're still alive. Party with friends while you're still you. Say your goodbyes. Travel. Meet people. See every beautiful thing. Honestly, like a funeral before you pass away, if you know you're going to pass. Sounds like a pretty good thing, not gonna lie. Then before it's too late, go home and let your mom hold you. Oh, and try every food you have never tried. Solid advice. Don't be too shy to speak what you've been thinking. I would also want to host a funeral before death. I really like the idea of a funeral party before passing. If this ever happened to me or someone in my surrounding, I would really want this to be the case. That would happen. Because usually the funeral itself is for the people that are still here and living and finding each other in grief and that kind of stuff. But this is such a beautiful way to have fun with everyone you care about and say goodbye properly and like end it on a high note, so to say. This is beautiful. It kind of reminds me of that article a few years ago when they arrested like an elderly person for breaking out, I don't remember if it was a spouse or friend, from basically hospice care, and they had like a death party where they did all the drugs and everything for like 2 days straight until they just died. Low-key reminds me of that, but just more wholesome instead of extreme. My friend was overpaid by $180,000 by mistake on Friday. They have already lost nearly $60,000 of it gambling online, as they were sure they could flip it before the error was noticed, which is presumably Monday.
This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever read today. Oh my god. Does anyone have any ideas on how they can fix this? Well, just gamble the rest, maybe you'll win it back and more. Most gamblers stop gambling right before they win it big. Go hard or go home, baby.
No, but seriously, stop gambling, take out a loan on $60K, pay it back and pretend it never happened. Okay, that would be my advice. So my friend works in construction and is doing a job which is going to take several months to finish. The contract is set up so where they are paid in monthly increments roughly. The last payment they got was supposed to be for $20,000, but he got $200,000 deposited into his account. He is sure it was an accounting error, and now he's freaking out because he did the most asinine thing possible and lost $60,000 of those dollars, gambling in the hopes he could make some life-changing money off of that mistake. He is aware of how monumentally stupid he is, and is looking for any real advice on what to do. Thank you for your help. Update, friend went all in on Sunday morning and put $120K on over on the 49ers game. He got insanely lucky and got his 47 points and banked $210K.
Wait, so he actually did. He went and gambled again.
Now his only problem is getting the money in the proper places because of bank/Coinbase withdrawal limits and also its forms of regulations that need to be addressed.
So it actually worked. The dumbest fucking solution you can imagine, which is like, oh my god, I'm in debt from gambling. Let's try to make it back by gambling. And it worked. I feel like this story is a horrible lesson to anyone else. Don't do this.
But everything is going to be okay. He had communicated with everybody and everything is fine. So he walked with plus 30K when everything was said and finished. That lucky SOB. Thank you and God bless everyone.
What the fuck? What kind of RNG does he have? Jesus Christ. He did the most stupid thing you could possibly do. Twice. And it worked out?
What? I mean, I'm glad for him that he didn't f*** his finances or whatever. I mean, that's good, but like, bruh, don't do this. Don't do this, okay? This is insane. If I spend $5,000 on my Steam/Kindle library, why can't I legally leave it to my children in my will? I mean, I would just give them the password. I mean, who's gonna know, really? I have never been ID'd, at least when I log into my Steam. I doubt you will.
In like 100 years, when your great-grandchildren are playing their games on Steam, and Steam is like, wait a second, this guy's been alive for 140 years. Oh, yes, indeed. Handing down the fine family heirlooms.
My Steam library. I recently went down the rabbit hole of buying versus licensing digital goods, and I hit a wall that I can't wrap my head around. If I spend 20 years building a physical library of books, DVDs and vinyl records, I could pass that physical wealth down to my kids. It's a transferable asset. But if I spend that same money building a massive Steam game library or a Kindle book collection, the terms of service usually and pretty much universally say the account is non-transferable and legally dies with me. I mean, you can account these sort of issues even without dying and trying to pass it on. Like, for example, if the platform itself is something like Prime Video, for example, and you purchase a movie, but then the licensing change, so the movie isn't available in your country and that kind of stuff, or, the company goes bankrupt and then your library is gone. Those kind of things, these kind of assets are never really safe, if that makes sense. So physical stuff is good. There's a reason I have a little vinyl collection of my own of like my favorite music and stuff like that. I think the way I stay sane is that I see the other stuff more like subscriptions, which is great, isn't it? Everything is turning into a subscription, but just give your kids your password. That's the best way to do it. If digital goods cost the same as physical ones, why does the value evaporate the moment I die? Has this actually been tested in any major court case yet? Or are we just in a legal gray area until the first generation of Steam whales start passing away and their families challenge the terms of service? I mean, yeah, give it 30 years or whatever and the first millennial Steam whales will start dying off, I suppose. Give them your password. Who will know? Yeah, exactly. That's like the best idea. That doesn't require lawyers, in my opinion. Hello! I am first year in law school. We didn't cover electronic contracts in detail this semester, but my professor basically said, if you want to drive yourself insane, trying to figure out how the hell mutual asset and consideration occur when neither side really believes that you are manifesting a willingness to be bound, go back and read chapter 6. Essentially, he is of the opinion that contracts like EULAs don't really make any sense, and have never made any sense. But the court system has decided to generally enforce them because it promotes business and economic growth. That said, if there is something really crazy that there is no sane person would ever agree to, the court is still likely to not uphold that agreement. Give your kids your password. I don't think Steam is gonna be checking in the next 100 years if you could feasibly be alive just to be playing your games, I don't think that's a thing, so you just give them your password, it's fine. I guess the only annoying thing is that you can't transfer games between accounts. If your kid already has a Steam account and they just want to add your games to it, they will have to swap accounts back and forth to play different games. But nowadays there is kind of like a lending system if you're logged into the accounts on the same computer at least. So I guess you could do that. That's actually a pretty good thing. So I think you can sort of practically do everything you want to do if you just log into all the accounts on the same computer. That should work pretty fine. Steam is actually pretty nice about this stuff. r/NoStupidQuestions. As a non-smoker, do you find that all smokers have a noticeable odor? Oh yes, and all their stuff too, and house, and pets. Everything. Today is a good day to learn. I have been a daily smoker for almost 20 years now, smoking more on weekdays. It's become my norm, and I haven't noticed the smell of cigarettes on someone in a long time. However, I do remember finding it unpleasant as a child. I never smoke indoors, and no one has mentioned any odor to me so far. I also take good care of my hygiene and overall appearance. I am curious, what do non-smokers think about this? As a teacher of children, I can tell if a student's parents smoke just by opening their backpack. I am a veterinarian. Not only do you smell like smoke, but so do your animals. Yeah, in my experience, it kinda lands on everything. It's sort of like garlic in that way. If you're consuming it yourself, you don't notice the smell. But if you don't, you realize that it's everywhere. It will smell inside the house, it will smell on the clothes, and even if you don't smoke indoors and smoke outside, your jackets are still hanging in the hallway and that will have a low-key odor to them. It gets into everything. It is incredible how invasive it gets. r/NoStupidQuestions. If you eat a rotisserie chicken really fast, does your body still register it as a meal? Or does it think you're being attacked? Wait, you think your brain thinks you're like a T-Rex chasing down your prey in the woods because you ate your rotisserie chicken so violently? Is that the question? Serious question. I just housed a full rotisserie chicken alone, standing over the sink like a caveman. Okay? Now I'm sweating, heart racing, and somehow not even full, just on edge. Could my body be reacting like I was in danger? I was being attacked by a rotisserie chicken. Does it treat the speed and violence of the meal as a threat response instead of digestion? The mental picture of this is beautiful. Is this just adrenaline from eating too violently, or did I unlock some paleo fight or flight bug?
Please, I genuinely don't know the answer. It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Ah, the meat sweats, I have missed you. I used to smash a bucket of KFC while high and feel the way you do. It passes, don't worry. Stinks though, so change your shirt.
Why do I feel like you're really fucking high right now? I mean, according to the first comment, they used to feel like this when they were high and gouging down buckets of meat, so, you know, I guess it adds up. I don't think you're tricking your brain that you're a T-Rex on the prowl. I think you're just having meat sweats while tripping balls. r/NoStupidQuestions. Can guys really smell if a girl is ovulating? I don't know if my BF is just autistic with a really good sense of smell, but he swears he can smell me when I'm ovulating or about to start my period, and so far he hasn't been wrong. We are really close, and he's been tracking my cycle since we started dating. Sometimes he will tell me, "You're acting like this because you're ovulating. You're gonna start your period next days." And he's right! He says all guys can, but I don't believe him. He's stupid smart and analyzes everything. In college, I learned about an experiment where women used scent-free products for a month and wore a different plain t-shirt every day. They had men smell the different shirts from different times of their cycle. The men preferred the women's scent when she was ovulating. I think I smell better when I'm ovulating. So yes, it is quite possible he can smell you ovulating.
I mean, if I were to go out on a limb here, it's probably a combination of like pheromones and hormones and bodily odor and smell and that kind of stuff, which you can probably notice if you're really close to someone and you share a bed every single day. But I doubt it that you're gonna like be able to sense exactly what part of a cycle someone is in just by walking past them on the street, you know? You see what I mean? I think it's that kind of vibe. There are documented cases of people who can smell cancer, so I absolutely believe that it's possible to smell this. But no, this is not a normal male thing at all. He has an uncommon ability. That or your cycle is predictable and he can just keep track of the days.
Am I literally the only woman who has no idea when I'm ovulating? Reading the comments make me feel like I'm crazy for not knowing. ETA, thank you for all the responses. It's interesting to hear so many different perspectives. Glad I'm not the only one who has no idea, but I think I'll try to see if I notice any of these indicators I've learned about now.
I mean, people do be different as well. I guess it depends both on you and your partner and a bunch of other factors. So, I mean, it's probably going to be incredibly individual.
No, my fiancé can smell when I'm about to start my period though. He says it's something about my breath mouth. Not bad, just different. To clarify, it's not blood. He smells whatever this is 3 to 5 days before I start bleeding, and I don't have a super regular cycle, so it's not like he is counting the days.
I mean, I'm not an odor scientist or whatever, but when you share a bed with someone every single day, and you also have a sensitive sense of smell, you can probably like vaguely sense, you know, hormonal changes and pheromones and that kind of stuff of your partner. I don't think it means that, you know, people can like, oh my god, I know exactly which women at the office are ovulating because I can smell it. You know, you're not a tracking creature in the forest with an acute sense of smell. You're probably just like pretty attuned to your partner's hormones and pheromones and so on and so forth. In some cases, at least, you know, it's probably that kind of vibe. You know, like with the shirts, for example, if you have the comparativeness between the shirts and every single day, you know, and no other smells that are interfering with it and so on and so forth, like a pretty controlled experiment and pretty intimate smelling, then you can probably notice a difference. But, you know, I don't think it's that kind of thing where it's like, oh my god, you're gonna be able to like predict people's cycles just by passing them on the street. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you have any experiences with this, either for or against? Because I think it's also incredibly individual, which makes it very fun and fascinating to talk about. Do you lock your door while you're in your house? As a woman, I lock the door when I'm home for my own safety. It's as important as locking the door when I'm not home. But I have a male roommate who constantly leaves the door unlocked. That is weird. He is weird. Why would you do that? We live in an apartment complex that is not gated. I often wake up in the morning to find the door unlocked, even though I locked it behind me the last time I came home. Oh, that is obnoxious. Oh my god, I didn't clock it first. It's an actual roommate. So your door also gets unlocked because he's so careless. This is just unsafe. Why would you do this? Like, if I put it this way, I am not usually worried about, like, my neighbors breaking into my apartment or whatever. But, like, on occasion, even when it's not malicious, I've had instances happen where it's very nice to keep your door locked. For example, one of my neighbors in the apartment next to me was, like, chugging on my door by accident. I think they probably had like kids over for a play date and they accidentally went to my door first and tried to open it, and I was like running around naked fixing stuff in my apartment. So it was pretty nice that my door was locked instead of like a bunch of kids being traumatized about me like running around naked fixing my dishes, you know? So it's like it's just a good idea to keep your door locked. Not only is it a safety reason, but it's also like a privacy thing. So no, I would say he's just being very silly or naive.
He is careless. I always lock the door. Burglars exist. Most burglars also aren't that skilled at lockpicking. Yeah, I think like a very common way of thievery is people that just go around and like lock check doors. You know, that goes for both like houses and cars and what have you. There is a saying in Swedish that like the opportunity makes the thief, and I think this adds to it as well. Not to mention basic safety, or not to mention this like, you know, a drunk neighbor. Like, do you really want like a drunk neighbor stumbling in at 2 a.m., waking you up and passing out on your floor because they mistake your door, you know, when they were going home? It's not malicious, they're probably not dangerous, but it's just obnoxious and you probably don't want to deal with it. So there are plenty of situations that are not like malicious or dangerous per se, that is just nice to avoid. Why can I smell illness but others can't?
Ooh, there's a lot of smelling ones today. I like this.
No one else I know besides my mom, and sometimes my dad, can smell when others are ill. It's so odd because I'll be around a sick friend and I will smell this almost vomit-like smell, but no one else can smell it. So I'll ask the friend if they are sick, and they most of the time say yes and ask me how I knew. And I tell them that I smelt it. A lot of the time they won't believe me because number one, they haven't thrown up. Number two, people can't smell sickness. It's so odd because I can smell it up to a day in advance. I'm not a superhero or anything, but I wonder why not everyone can smell it. There are lots of people who can smell things that most other people can't. There are also people who can't smell things that most people can smell. We call my husband the super sniffer because he smells stuff no one else does, especially if a dog goes in the house. I think there are plenty of examples of people being able to smell this stuff. Let's see, I think there was a comment about this somewhere. I can absolutely smell when a person or an animal is ill or dying. I figure it's the body function shutting down or the chemicals oozing out of the skin. It's been a blessing of sorts in regards to our pets. Cats will hide illness until it's too late to help them. But I can smell what I call the death smell and get them to a vet for treatment or at least be euthanized without suffering more. The smell is similar to antifreeze. People will smell like rotting fruit, oranges in particular. I mean, smelling sickness is definitely a thing that exists. Hardly something that everyone can do, but I do believe there's also like a thing where dogs can sometimes smell illness and that kind of thing and used to catch things in early stages and yada yada. So like different sicknesses definitely produce some sort of odor for sure, otherwise stuff like this wouldn't happen. But of course, I don't think everyone is like susceptible to those smells. If I was stuck in a storm in Antarctica, would the penguins let me join their huddle so I don't freeze to death?
Ooh, the important questions, survival questions.
Previous penguin researcher here. Depending on the species, you could slowly scooch in and pretend to be part of the colony. You would have to go slow and sit there for a while. They'll probably give you some space at first, but if they determine you're not a threat, they'll move closer to you. The young ones will be curious enough to come right up and check you out pretty quickly. It does depend on the species though. Gentoos don't huddle like the emperors do. Neither do adeles, and chin straps will downright fight you. Haha. So look for the emperors and snuggle with them.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Have worked with penguins hand-reared by humans and not. No, they will not adopt you. They will not feed you, will die.
They're like well-dressed toddlers at best. God, why is it inconsistent? I was hoping for life-saving penguin snuggles, and now another researcher is telling me like, no, you're gonna fucking die. God damn it.
So, based on my statistical analysis of this comment section, it's a bit 50-50. Maybe you'll die, or maybe baby emperor penguins will be curious enough to snuggle you to life. So, we'll see, I guess, when we get stuck in the Antarctica and have to snuggle penguins to survive, you know? I guess we just have to figure out by trying, by doing. Do you ever read the Bible and wonder if the people who see visions are just in mental health crises? Ever stop and wonder if all these visions from the Bible are just people having schizophrenic episodes? Accidentally eating something like mushrooms or other substances that are messing with their mental state? Or dehydrated severely enough that it causes hallucinations? You don't even need drugs or mental illness. Hunger, sleep deprivation, malnutrition, trauma or panic, vague sensory stimuli, plus a preconceived idea or group hysteria can all make you hallucinate very vividly.
Why do substances with the bros when you can have malnutrition and trauma panic? That's just a Good Friday.
What you perceive as reliable sensory information actually goes through a powerful filter and is very warped and biased. You don't actually perceive anything close to objective reality, and it's shockingly easy to hallucinate.
I mean, one little fun fact I like is that the brain flips the picture that you see through your eyes. You know, it's upside down when it goes into your eyeballs, and your brain flips it for you.
This is one of those things. But no, everything we see in the universe is so subjective because it goes through all our senses and filters and all that kind of stuff and processings in the brain. And at any sort of these stages, something can happen that makes us interpret things differently. So we are, frustratingly enough, never going to be close to an objective view of the universe because we are inherently so subjective. It's both beautiful and a bummer. In the 2020s, conservative women are having kids at nearly a 2-to-1 ratio compared to liberal women. Is this going to cause a political demographic bias in 20 to 30 years?
Yes, indeed. Breed to own the libs.
So I just read an article that only 40% of liberal women are having kids versus 70% for conservative women. I mean, I'm guessing this is like American stuff, so to say. But for example, one thing I would say about political bias is, for example, the people I know that went to uni typically lean a bit more left. That's like the typical demographic you will find at universities. When you go to uni, you also like delay other parts of your life on average. Like most of the friends I know that went to uni, they typically have kids in like their early 30s. So I think it's just a bias of the fact that, a large statistics are people that haven't gotten to the child having part of their life yet because they went to uni, and that also has a big overlap in being more liberal. So I think there can be plenty of explanations for this. Also, of course, other demographic factors, I would imagine. This is just me making up hypotheses, for example. But for example, large parts of the LGBTQ community, some of which are in, for example, gay relationships that aren't producing kids per se, are also more likely to lean liberal because that's, rights and all that kind of jazz. So I would say there's probably plenty of arguments to be made why you might see a statistical bias currently. This is a nearly 2-to-1 ratio, and generally speaking, most people become what their parents raised them as. Having kids tied to being married, and liberal women are getting married at a much smaller rate. In my anecdotal experience, people usually become products of their environment. Buttholes make buttholes. Nice people make nice people. Steelers fan make other Steelers fan. We're getting specific here. Will this cause a political demographic bias in the future? Even if not all conservative parents raise conservative kids, liberals are still not having enough kids. That is, assuming a scenario where all liberal parents have liberal kids, parentheses, unlikely, and half of conservative parents have liberal kids. If both parents have kids that are 50-50 politically split, it looks like it's still going to be a huge demographic bias. Or am I not looking at it correctly? Will there need to be a societal push by the Democratic Party to get married and have kids in order to beat this?
It's kind of dark in a way when we start making arguments about, we need to have more kids and teach them to vote. It's not even just capitalistic cattle anymore. Now it's like voting cattle. God damn.
Quite a few liberal parents have found out their boys have been red-pilled by Andrew Tate and Joe Rogan and whatnot, so it happens to the left too. I work in an industry with a lot of teens and young adults, and I think many liberals will be shocked to know what's going on with the younger folks if they interacted with them. Trumpism is not strictly boomers like it's often portrayed to be, or many of the other stereotypes. I feel like so many people didn't actually look at the election data with any scrutiny or granularity at all. Trump's message resonated with a lot of different demographics. I mean, this seems to be mainly revolving around American statistics, but for example, what I talked about with going to uni or college, that kind of stuff, delaying other parts of your life, is certainly one explanation for statistical anomalies, at least in slightly younger demographics. You don't have a lot of people that go to uni that have kids when they're 25. That is typically not the norm. So, there can be plenty of explanations for this, but I also not sure if I want to I don't know, push stuff that is have kids for the voting power. That's dark. That's really dark. Is that where we're heading? Man. Those subreddits that are child-free or whatever, that are sometimes nice conversations and sometimes they're weirdly bitter about kids and they call parents breeders or whatever. Pretty soon we're gonna have subreddits that are r/breed for your party. And it's we're gonna make babies for my favorite politician. Why do I start to sound like Trump? We gotta make babies for a favorite politician. Gonna pop out those little magas. Fuck. I love the world. What's the opposite of the women jogging test? I heard somewhere that a good way to tell if a neighborhood is safe is to see if women are out jogging or walking their dogs after dark. What is the opposite? The red flags that tell you should get the hell out of this area. I was house hunting. The neighbor had their grill chained down on their back porch. I noped out of there. Other things, bars on windows, unkempt yards, cars that obviously can't move, everyone has a loud dog in the yard. Yeah, just like typical stuff. You know, you can kind of like think about it yourself. If you found your environment threatening, what would you do to keep yourself safe? Like, you know, loud guard dogs, bars on windows, a lot of security systems, and also stuff that correlates with a larger level of economic inequality. For example, stuff like abandoned vehicles, more trash, less public service, all that kind of stuff. It's good vibes. I've also seen some people talk about this subject and be like, when you see ladies walking around on their own with dogs or whatever, then it's safe. When you see a bunch of dudes hanging around in the middle of the day, just staring at you, then it's bad. Why do boys fall into alt-right pipelines way more than girls do? I hear this all the time about how a girl 13 years old brother start quoting Tate constantly, and they start an alt-right pipeline as soon as you give them a phone, etc, etc. But I don't know why so many fall into it so easily. I know misogyny is super ingrained into our society, but is there a deeper science to this? Because it's made for them. Why do girls fall into MLM schemes for beauty products way more than men do? Why do old people fall into believing strangers on the phone are their grandsons more than young people? Scammers pick out who they scam very carefully. No scam works on everybody, but everyone has a scam they are most likely to fall for. That should be put on posters all over the cities, because the more you believe to be invincible, the more likely you are to fall for a scam. Just a minute of stopping and thinking would save millions of people. I think one aspect to it as well, at least in the modern landscape, is that on the internet it's so easy to find anyone that agrees with you, both positively and negatively, and algorithms do be a thing. And one thing I see in like grifting context, take for example like red pill manosphere stuff, is that they typically have a few talking points that often resonate very well with young men. It can be like self-improvement stuff or empowerment things, or for example if you have a young man that is frustrated about something they've seen on social media, or you know, they're dumped by a girl or something like that, then it's very appealing with some of these talking points. But then it very quickly funnels into a rabbit hole where you get very bubblyfied and isolated, and your opinions get more and more extreme. And then what you also realize if you look into this from the outside is that a lot of things are cherry-picked, you know? And I see this all over the internet where you cherry-pick like, oh, here's like people, I don't know, over-analyzing someone who was stupid on like a dating game show. And it's like, oh, this is so typical women. And it's like, you think an LA dating show about people who are there for entertainment is like a valid representation of average dating in the population? You know, stuff like that. Stuff gets cherry-picked a lot, and I think people that might struggle a bit IRL are more likely to fall for it. You know, the fewer reference points you have, for example, when it comes to healthy dating or relationships, the more easy it is to find this kind of stuff alluring, because maybe your only dating point is one bad experience, and then you think that's all it is about. So that doesn't make it okay or whatever, but, you know, these kind of algorithms do feed into different things for different people. In the very same way, you know, the MLM targets specific people too. You know, there is a reason why it's so stereotypically like, you know, military spouses, for example, in the US, and then they target that. Or scammers that target old people because they're not up to date with like what AI can do, or like imitating voices or imitating a bank representative or what have you. So scammers and grifters target people for specific reasons, and certain demographics are more likely to lean into certain temptations or trickery than other ones. How do so many people just not drink water? This must be an American post, I swear to God. My partner is one of those people who never drinks water. How? How are you not constantly dehydrated? If anything, they will have a soda. But most of the time, they don't drink anything at all. My cousin would also never drink water growing up, only milk.
I mean, milk is good protein and calcium or whatever, but water is pretty good for you, fam.
How is this comfortable? I can't go half a day without drinking water, let alone multiple days in a row. My mom used to be firmly convinced that consuming any water at all was a sign of being hungover, and therefore an alcoholic. The only healthy beverages were caffeine, beer, or wine.
Wait a second, drinking water proves that you're an alcoholic, but not drinking beer and wine? What?
She did eventually develop diabetes, which contributed to her demise. That's a horrible line of logic, oh my god.
I mean, not that casually drinking beer or wine makes you an alcoholic either, but that is just so wild.
The only time you're thirsty for water is if you're a fucking addict.
My girlfriend told me she's 30. I recently found her ID. It says she's 26. I am 25. I asked her how old she is, actually. She said her age is none of my business.
What do you mean? It's your girlfriend. This is some pretty basic information. What are you talking about?
I basically don't know how old she is, and we've been dating for 7 months. Was I wrong for asking? Why is she lying about it? That is so weird. Is she like faking her identity or something? You know, the thing is that if they're lying about this, what else are they lying about? I would really struggle trusting someone that lies about their age. You know, it's one thing if it's like, you know, you don't want to give out your age online. That's fine. You don't have to overshare with the entire world. But if it's someone you're actively dating and have been dating for 7 months, I would imagine you to know the basic things about them. Like, what's your name? What's your birthday? What's your favorite color or whatever, you know? Like, leave. Not telling strangers your age is one thing. A significant other is something else entirely. Yeah, and getting mad at your significant other for catching you in a lie is also a red flag. That is true. That is true. Like the defensiveness when caught in a lie, that just makes me believe, like, what else are they lying about? I don't think I would date someone that lies about, like, really mundane stuff like this. That is very strange. Over the last 25 years, I have worked hundreds of weddings. Gay ones are almost exclusively drama-free and easier to work than straight ones. Why is that? Like, I've never seen two guys getting married throwing cake at each other's faces from across the room as borderline assault speed. I mean, to be fair, I have been to a decent chunk of weddings at this point. There hasn't been a lot of drama at any of the weddings, to be fair, but it's also very anecdotal, you know? So let's dig into it, shall we? For the curious, I am part of wedding videography team. I am a straight married guy myself, who has attended close to 1,000 goddamn weddings over the course of my career. Then your sample size is a little bit bigger than mine. Retirement can't come soon enough. I am from a state in the US where same-sex marriage has been legal for the better part of the 2 decades I have been in this field. We kind of have this inside joke that when we're assigned a gay wedding, everyone breathes a sign of relief, because it's gonna be easy. A lot of you have probably seen those Bridezilla type wedding shows. Trust me, more weddings are like that than most people know. Literally just go to r/askreddit and search wedding, and you'll see hundreds of thousands of comments of some of the most insane wedding stories you've ever heard of. Ooh, or r/wedding shaming. It's really funny. I have seen it all. They're almost all true. Guaranteed. But when 2 guys or 2 chicks get married, literally never. I mean, yeah, all weddings have hiccups and snags. They're giant moving art pieces of events, but LGBT ones, in my thorough experience, are just wholesome and almost always devoid of tyrant helicopter parents, asshole guests getting in physical fights, and complaints at every single turn. The cake thing I mentioned in the title, you have no idea how many couples I have seen completely destroy the cake and yeet it across the room, violently smash it in each other's faces. It doesn't happen with same-sex couples. Literally haven't seen it once. You know how many times I've seen 2 just random male guests at wedding fighting in the parking lot of a venue that I've had to break up? Or some fuckery like that. Enough times that it would blow your mind. At gay weddings, literally never. So yeah, I know this is a stupid question, and the answer will probably come down to cultural differences, but what I am honest to God curious as hell to why that is. Me and my coworker were chatting about this last night over some drinks after we got done working a particularly chaotic wedding. We even joked about how despite living in a city with a very big gay population, we have never seen a gay guy yelling at his spouse in a Walmart or something. You wouldn't believe how often other staff members at venues interact with us when things get down to the wire, go, it's a same-sex wedding, it's gonna be smooth sailing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the answers. Troublesome family members usually don't attend gay weddings. Yeah, I can imagine that. You know, like your homophobic aunt that also just happens to be really conflict-driven and entitled. Probably is not there to begin with. Bingo, lol. My lesbian moms got married in 21, and I have thought before that my evil grandma not even being told is a huge reason it went so smoothly. I had a queer wedding, and I'll say a big factor might be the guest list. When your family is hostile towards you, you lose a lot of the feelings of obligation to invite them. Those asshole family members just don't get invited. So they don't get to fight each other in the parking lot. Versus if that asshole family member is mean, but not to you, you might think they need to be invited. Oh yeah, I can imagine that bias is true. You know, if it's a generally mean family member, it's probably a decently big chunk of overlap between like being entitled or homophobic or whatever, and then they just don't get invited, versus like maybe you haven't seen it yourself if you're in a straight marriage, so to say. That kind of makes sense, you know? It's sort of like the trash preemptively takes it out, I suppose. At least for myself and my husband, when we got married in 2015, it was just kind of miraculous in of itself that we were having a real, legally recognized wedding at all. The bells and whistles were completely unimportant because neither of us thought we would actually ever have any kind of wedding, period. Oh my god, that is like sad and super wholesome at the same way. That is so sweet, basically not taking it for granted, I suppose. That is so sad, but I'm so happy that you got to do that. That is amazing. r/NoStupidQuestions. Do people actually not understand that prices don't go down? Lower inflation is still inflation. Deflation will not happen without economic collapse. Edit. Guys, enough with the TV comments. We get it. They have gone down. Most people hear inflation down and think their grocery bill goes back to 2019 prices. That's not how any of this works, but good luck explaining that.
We just want salaries to keep up with it, man. That's all we want.
Whenever prices started going up drastically, I had a talk with my dad and asked him if he ever seen anything like this before, and he said it happened in the 80s, but that it got better eventually. I said, did the prices go down? He said, no, that's not how it works.
He then voted for Trump because Trump said he was going to bring down the prices of everything.
My brother thinks people today have a worse quality of life than people in the Dark Ages. Is this a stupid take?
Yes.
I personally think it's pretty stupid.
It's pretty stupid. Why do poor people have the most children? My aunt has a debt of more than $180,000. She chose to drop out of high school, has no further education, and also decided she would never work. She had her first child when she was 16 or 17 and had 6 more. She doesn't have enough money to rent a house and only steals money from my grandmother to buy things. She doesn't care about her children or the conditions they live in. When I ask her why she doesn't want to work, she simply says,
I don't know.
It's also confusing to me. There is a number of reasons. Number one, it may be seen as an achievement that validates their life value. People with lower incomes have lower access to birth control, or people with lower incomes are less likely to want to avoid child rearing because they don't have competing goals to worry about. Getting a college degree or joining the workforce on a career track are much harder when children are part of the mix. I think number three is what a lot of people are missing. Having children is a lifestyle like any other. If you're pursuing ambitious or money-making endeavors that don't leave time or space to dedicate your life to raising lots of children. I mean, in your aunt's example, it also shows like a lack of care, I suppose, and I would assume that lack of care also includes like birth control and responsible financial planning and so on and so forth. I mean, she is obviously like a cherry-picked example, but also if you look at a wider perspective of, for example, birth rates, is that when economic stability goes up, birth rates go down. And this is more like a global statistic because it means that, you know, the society you live in is more reliable when it comes to pensions, and child mortality is less common, meaning that you don't need as many children and so on and so forth. This is a very common phenomenon that when economic welfare goes up, so to say, the amount of children per person typically goes down. That could be an explanation, I suppose, but I get the feeling that this is arguing more like locally, so to say, which I assume like similar talking points could be attached to it for sure, or like this person mentioned with the 3 points. If celebrities have so much money and access to the world's best doctors, why does their plastic surgery look so terrible? Always remember, you only notice poorly done surgeries. You will be amazed at how many cosmetic procedures are done each year that you don't even notice. Oh yeah, like every single dude over 30 in Hollywood has a hair transplant, for example. That's one of those examples. I mean, it's kind of the same with CGI. You notice the bad CGI, but you would be shocked how much stuff in movies, for example, is actually CGI that you don't even think about. It can be like small things, or just like adding more background cars in a chase scene or something like that. Things you don't even think about, or it's very low-key, that is actively CGI. And the same thing with like beauty surgeries. You're not going to notice every time someone has like a little skin lift for their jawline, or a little Botox in their forehead, or like a little low-key hair transplant, you know, to improve the hairline or something like that. The good ones, you don't notice. And typically the comments you see is like, oh my god, oh yeah, someone said it! The best plastic surgery gets filed under, oh wow, they aged well. Exactly, look at, for example, Hollywood actors from the 80s or whatever, and what their hairlines looked like on average, versus now. Do you think it's like evolutionary that everyone in Hollywood just has like perfect hairlines at the age of 45? Probably not. Well, laddies, lasses, and lassos, I do hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed having you here, you wonderful, beautiful beings. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day because you do deserve it, and I will see you again in the very near future. Take care. Mwah.